Hey, Carl.
Hi, Jeremy. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Okay.
Looks like Janet is popping on and Tom.
I see
Hi,
Janet.
Janet.
Hi, Janet.
Hi.
And then Dennis. Good. Hi, Dennis.
Good evening.
Okay, you can hear me,
Yeah, hey, Tom.
but I can't see me. Asked for my camera, I said yes.
Yeah, it shows that you have something blocking your camera, or
No,
can you see us?
yes, I can see all of you.
Okay.
Huh.
Sweet. Oh, Brad's joining. Awesome. Hey, Brad.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, good.
I'm gonna have to get on and off.
You want to try to
because
do it right quick, Tom?
I have to quit to get the camera to go.
That's okay. I mean, unless you have something to show us, we don't need to see you.
Okay, works for me.
As long as you can see, if I open up my screen or something, right?
Yeah, I'm sure if you share screen, I'll see it. So. Hello, Brad. Hello, Dennis. Hello, Carl. Hello, Janet.
Hello,
1,
Tom.
2, 3, 4, 5. We're good to go. Let's see. The only person we're missing
Oh,
is Mark.
Mark. You said Kelsey wasn't gonna be here,
Yeah, correct.
but who? Oh, Mark is missing.
Yeah, I'd kind of like to have Mark on.
If we want to wait a couple more minutes, Tom, if you want to try to, if you feel more comfortable starting.
No, that's all right.
Okay.
I don't mind not being seen.
Okay.
What time have we got? 6:02. Let's get started. Hopefully Mark will join us. This would be normally his last meeting, I think. Council turns over in April. We have one more maybe.
One more.
Does that sound
Maybe
all right?
one more meeting. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's call this thing to order.
Okay.
I see or hear no one from the public, therefore we'll shut that part down. You've all had a chance, I assume, to take a look at the minutes from last meeting. Are there any corrections, additions, deletions? Seeing everyone shaking their heads, I need a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second,
I
Second,
second. Or
Dennis
Dennis?
beat you to it. All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Opposed? Okay. Agenda items. Kevin Hurd. You saw the letter that he submitted. I have to tell you, I felt very honored to see my name in that letter. That made me feel pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't know that this is normally done, but I would like the committee to say something in our minutes about Kevin.
Absolutely. I was going to say the same thing, Tom.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
So I've written one small thing. Let me read it to you. Upon his retirement, the Middleton PVGC Committee extends our appreciation to Course Superintendent Kevin Hurd for his many years of service to PView. Kevin's skill, expertise, and guidance has been instrumental in making PView a standout municipal golf course. Thank you, Kevin. What do you think,
I love it.
Janet?
Sounds good, Tom.
Janet doesn't look convinced, doesn't say enough, I can tell.
No, it's great. We could go on and is his email on the Pleasantview golf site that we can send him an email before he leaves March 1st? I'm hoping that it's still his.
Yeah, it's still active.
Okay.
It's his email when you're ready. Oh, here's his email.
Okay.
K Hurd, HURD @golfpleasantview.com.
Okay.
So
I
K
just wanted to
Hurd,
send him something.
yeah, K Hurd @golfpleasantview.com.
Okay.
Got it. Thank you, Jeremy.
All right, I got K Hurd. I don't write as fast as I used to.
At
What was the last one?
golfpleasantview.com.
Pleasantview, oh, Golf Pleasantview.
Golf, pleasantview.com, right.
I mean, I could go on for paragraphs because we all know he's been one of my favorites, and
Since
he
what
has
happened?
held us together with glue, literally, many times over the 20 years I've been here. So
Yeah, I every time I see him on the course, I stop him, I thank him again and again and again. He probably gets mad at me for holding up from getting stuff done. Jeremy, I will send you that motion. I think it should be in the form of a motion. So I move what I just read.
I second.
Thank you. All in favor of commending Kevin in this way, please say aye.
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 So
Thank you.
who moved?
I did.
I
And
second.
then Janet. You know, for what it's worth, guys, I mean, as far as Kevin Hurd is concerned, he was an absolute pleasure to work with. You know, he and I had a great working relationship. He 10 years ago, when if you can believe it, it's been that long, when I came on board, you know, he was kind, he was supportive. He's a good, great person that we're going to miss. And it's the pride that I don't know that I could ever find or beat myself, right? He's got such great pride in this piece of property. And I think he said it perfectly in his own words. He views this as his own land, right? Just like a farmer would. So he you know, unique individual in a good way. And he will be missed. Now, going forward, I do feel very, very comfortable and confident in what we are going to do in the future. I know Matt Stotts is he is ready and eager to take over the position. He's done everything that I have asked for as far as getting further education. He has, you know, interviewed with other facilities in preparation for this to make sure that this is what he wants. And Matt Stotts is, he'll be a very, very good replacement. So, and as far as Kevin Hurd is concerned, you know, he's not going to go away, right? I think he wants to try to work here part-time within any rules and regulations with the city retirement plan, right? So we can't jeopardize any of his retirement plans, but I think he's going to start back up once the city allows as a part-time employee. So you'll still see him doing the things that he loves. And I think what's really crazy about Kevin is you know, he's been doing this for what, 45 years, right? And I couldn't imagine just shutting off one day and just being like, okay, I'm done, see ya, right? So, you know, Pleasantview Golf Course is going to be really supportive of his transition over the next couple of years.
Okay,
But as far as that is concerned, guys, everything is in motion in regards to the job opportunity for Kevin's replacement. So I have been working with the city and Brian, the HR director. He's been great to work with, and yeah, so we're moving along.
So it's a done deal for Matt. We don't have to do anything.
Well, it's not a done deal officially. We did an internal posting only, right? So anybody within the city of Middleton was able to apply. Obviously, it takes a pretty specific qualification base to take this job. So, but you know, if other people do end up applying, we'll give them a fair shot.
When did that post, Jeremy? Was that recent?
Yeah, it was a couple days ago. Yep.
A couple days ago.
Yep.
Okay.
But
So
it would
there's
have
some
been,
time.
so again, Carl, it would have been internal staff only. You guys
Right.
would not have seen that. Yeah.
Right. I figured that, but I just wanted to get an idea when it was posted, and how much time
Yeah.
has gone by since then.
Any questions on that besides
Nope.
Carl's?
Nope. He's gonna be missed.
No,
Yeah.
no kidding. Wow.
Hello, Mark, welcome.
Hey guys.
Mark,
We were
Oh,
just speculating that you, this might be your last meeting, but then we thought, no, we'll get you in March yet too, for sure.
probably get me in April too.
Oh, I don't know if we can take you twice, man.
Well, if that's the way you guys feel about it, I'll talk to you later.
Mark, that's just Tom speaking. So
All right, golf operations. Jeremy,
All right, give me one brief second. This is going to be pertinent information for the next. Bear with me really quick. Okay, good. Golf operations financial. Yeah, so I sent you all, kind of the latest financials from 2021, right? Now, please note, these are not audited financials, but they do give us a pretty good picture of what to expect as far as our year-end numbers are concerned. Any questions on what you may have seen or not have seen?
why do you have, I was curious, you have some yellow outlining here. One of the two are noted, but I didn't know what the other one was.
What's the one you didn't know what it was, Kev? Or I mean, Tom?
I know what pension expense is, but why is it called out?
Why is it called what?
Called out, it's yellow.
Oh, because it was a change from the, Jessica does a good job at letting me know where the changes are. So since the last report that we talked about, which was obviously, 3-4 weeks ago, that just shows me that there was an adjustment to that line item.
Oh, it's an updated number, all right.
Yep.
Questions, anybody?
yeah, the only question I had, Jeremy, was towards the end. It's also highlighted. You had mentioned I'm just getting to it here. Something about, the capital asset value. It's at line 221. And it's in yellow. And the comment says the capital asset was moved to a different account. Just explain that a little bit for me.
Yeah, so that goes into the depreciation aspect, Carl. So some of the items that we have under capital expenses are not actual pieces of equipment. They might be services, for example. Like Kevin Norby, for example, his services would not be a depreciated asset.
Okay.
So what finance is doing is they're just moving the proper, we'll call it equipment versus services pieces over to the correct line item.
Okay. So it's really just moving that capital asset of, was it 151 or something, over to a different account.
So that they can be depreciated accordingly. Yep.
Right.
Now, I know that this is a mix. I know that we've always dealt on a cash basis, and Mark will probably chime in here, but there's obviously some form of gap accounting here with depreciation. And so just be aware that, and we did this last year in 2021 or 2020, excuse me. Yeah, 2 years ago.
Yeah,
Wow.
2020, right.
Yeah, We did this in 2020, where we, at the end of year, just to show you where we're at on a financial spectrum, the depreciation's involved. And then obviously you'll see that we only technically spent 150 some grand in capital, where we really output 299 and some change in capital expenses, right? So that's some of the changes that you'll see.
Got it. Thanks. Because I know the depreciation is right above that. Also, it's highlighted, not included in the numbers below, but at least it calls it out so we know what it is.
Yeah,
Which is
correct.
helpful.
And then obviously throughout the year, we've never really been talking about depreciation until year end. So
Right.
I think
Exactly.
it's important to understand that that's in there in this report.
Great. Thank you, Jeremy.
So this brings up a question that has been brought to my attention. And that is that as people roll onto the committee and roll off and new members come on, the last 10 years, 15, 20, 30 years of our financials are kind of a mixed bag of activity, and it can get kind of confusing at times. So there's been a request that we take, and I'm hoping, Mark, you can kind of run through this in maybe 10 or 15 minutes or less, and kind of give us the last, let's say, 15 years of how the course has been funded, et cetera.
I'm not sure where you want to go with this. So the course has always been an enterprise fund since its purchase from CUNA, almost all since its purchase from CUNA. So the results of operations are essentially what the results of the enterprise fund have been. There was acquisition debt, and then there were advances from the city, either through the general fund or TIF, to pay for the deficit that was created during operations. Back around 2012, 2013, there was a management change where we helped Ted decide that he should be retired. And that's when Jeremy took over. I think we've made some changes along the way. We sold a piece of that back property that wasn't really any good for golf. We sold that to public lands and used some of that debt to pay off acquisition debt. We've used about half of our operating earnings to pay off that debt. We just made the final payment on the general fund debt. So all that's remaining is the debt that we owe to TID 3. And let me just make sure people understand this. The reason why it's TID 3 and not the general fund was a matter of convenience for the general fund. The general fund was really responsible for these deficits, but at the time, it was a question of who had the deeper pockets, and so that loan came from TID 3 as opposed to the general fund. But it's really considered general fund debt. So that's all that's left is about that $2.1 million in essentially subsidies for the deficit that the golf course had run from probably 2000 to 2012, 2013. I will say that I don't know whether I'm pretty sure you guys don't get some of the emails, but it was big news that we paid off those advances to the general fund. When the city went to the ratings for bonds for our annual debt issuance, it was noted that favorably that the golf course had paid off the general fund a few years earlier than had originally been planned. So we, a pat on our backs for that, for helping the city maintain its, I think it's AA1 rating.
Did they shave off any basis points?
Oh, no. I just had a favorable comment, right? So it is being noticed, right? Just it helps the city maintain its really good credit rating so that when we go out to buy debt to fund other city operations, this is part of the mix as well. So I'm not sure that if that helps you kind of get a background.
Yeah, it does. So now what I do is I'd say, if anybody has any questions about those or frankly, any other questions about the financial underpinnings for the course, now would be a good time to kind of get them on the table and be done with them. So
Yeah,
if-
and maybe I can interject. So Carl, because I know that you had some questions on this too. You know, and I'm not exactly sure the dates, but I know the city purchased the golf course from CUNA back in maybe 94-ish. Okay. You know, for whatever the number was. I don't know what that number was, but they were the golf course was then operated under a management company. It was owned by the city of Middleton, but not operated by the city of Middleton. Then in maybe around 2000, and Janet, and you might have a better memory on me than on this than I will, but maybe 2000, 2001, I don't know, maybe somewhere in the early 2000s or late
Yeah.
90s, the city decided that it wasn't in their best interest financially to continue paying a management company, and they wanted to do this operationally themselves. And so the city took it over as an operation standpoint. Then in 2000, 2001-ish, 2002-ish, somewhere around there, again, my history is escaping me right now, the city decided to expand to a 27-hole facility. Okay, because they had 18-hole, excuse me, I guess it would be a 36-hole facility, 27 championship golf, and then the par 3 course. So they had 18 holes and then the par 3. So the city expanded 27 holes championship and 9 holes on the par 3s for a total of 36 holes in the early 2000s. And that required some form of funding. Where that funding came from, that would be a question more for maybe Mark. But then in 2007, the city expanded the clubhouse and required additional borrowing at that time as well. And so the expansion
for debt, right? Both of those
correct.
debt.
Correct. So the expansion of the golf course itself in early 2000s, the expansion of the clubhouse in the mid 2000s, and then the purchase from CUNA in 94-ish, mid 90s. These are all the things that we're paying down currently, right? And what we have remaining is the obligation to TIF district number 3.
So all in, I think there was about 7.5 million in acquisition between the purchase and the 2 expansions.
There's always been huge debate over whether we paid too much to begin with, which followed all of those additions after that, which was neither here nor there because it was a done deal, but it may come up again at some point. I'm hoping not, but that was always a huge argument because they paid too much to begin with. So when it was a horse farm, turning it to a golf course, you know, that whole deal. So it just makes me really old sitting here. Knowing that.
Any other
Wise.
questions?
Wise, right. Just a couple of comments. Okay, thank you for the input, guys. Kind of puts it in a nice, puts the past and present kind of in a nice perspective of it. Looking ahead, the only question I have is about pilot and how that works and when is that going to be calculated, and is that still something, Mark, that's kind of distant, or is it coming up fairly soon?
Again, this is my opinion. The enterprise fund as a management entity does not really have a way to share its profits with the city, right? The structure that it is right now does not pay anything to the city at all. Well, the city owns it, so, and the city provides other services to it. If you look at the water utilities and the sewer utilities, the city charges them payments in lieu of taxes, pilot, to recoup some of those costs. I think it's probably just a matter of time before the golf course is going to be expected to do the same thing. And you would want to look at that in two ways: paying for some of the services that we get from the city, for example, the accounting and payables functions, the HR functions, the management functions. And it's also a way to essentially dividend up to the city some share of the profits, right? Nothing's free. If you compared it to a corporate structure, that we would be just a subsidiary of a parent, and we'd be expected to return profits to the parent. And that's the way that I would look at pilot. The question is, when would the golf course be ready to do that? We've modeled it into some of the financials. It would probably be reasonable to expect that the city would want to start that as soon as possible because of the levy limits, the restraints that are on the general fund in terms of collecting, getting revenue. Right. So just think about the irony here. For the last 20 years, the golf course has been, the ugly stepchild. And now it's in a position to basically really produce something really good for the city in terms of revenue that it can't get from anywhere else. Hope that helps.
It helps me, Mark, when you put it in the perspective of a corporate sub, it's like that. And I've seen that in my prior lives. So it's very similar to that. So thanks for couching it in those terms. It helps me understand it better.
Yep.
Okay. Pleasantview Road.
Okay, so moving on. The Kevin Norby, man. Kevin Norby is currently working on bid docs, right, for Pleasantview Road. He's been working with our various staff, like for example, Sean Stelsky, our city engineer, and he's been working with MG&E to talk about where brush and trees and the mounding is going to take place, which ironically enough, I sent you that earlier today, the game plan. It's really more of information. I don't think there's anything in particular that we need to talk about, unless you guys have questions or concerns about what Kevin Norby is proposing for MG&E or to MG&E.
Nope, sounds like what we had talked about. So it makes perfect sense, Jeremy.
Yeah, I don't think this is anything new. It's just more, it's the latest, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but Kevin is working hard at moving this forward and making sure that we will have a contractor on time.
Sounds good.
So
I do
Jeremy,
think that I'm sorry.
I would have one ask for the committee, in that you make sure that you separate what's being paid by TID 3 and what's being paid by the golf course. Right. So a lot of the stuff that we're talking about for Pleasantview Road and Kevin is going to ultimately be paid by TID 3. But the reconstruction of the other holes is going to be paid by the golf course. And it would be, I think it would be helpful if you made sure that you always kept them separate.
That is the game plan, and we are already on that. They're going to be two separate documents or bid docs. So, yep.
Right. I'm just talking about when you're speaking about it in the committees, just make sure that everybody's aware that this is stuff that's specific to road construction project, and then the other stuff is specific to the golf course construction reconstruction.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, so what I guess, so all that said, what I was just referring to was the Pleasantview Road project.
Right.
And on the Pleasantview Road project, Jeremy, they are still planning on starting that up in the springtime or at least summer?
Yeah, preliminary construction is set to begin this year. You know, again, we will have minimal impact on our side of the road. It sounds like the majority of it's going to take place on the east side of Pleasantview Road. But yes, Carl, you're correct. It looks like everything's still, from my understanding, moving forward with the timeline that we last discussed. So 2023 is the big year where we'll have to make adjustments.
Got it. Thanks.
They still plan on completing by year end 23?
I haven't heard otherwise. Mark, have you heard anything?
That's still the plan.
Right. That has a direct impact on us, so let's hope it doesn't change. Okay. I'm a little concerned about the changes to Lake 2. I'm not sure I can get a drive out far enough to take advantage of that now. I don't think we can fix that right here, but now that I see the drawing, it's like, oops. And it gets a little narrow too.
Yeah.
Moving on. You want us to take a look at the Kevin Norby stuff? The redesign stuff?
I do. Let me, bear with me here. Gosh.
For some reason, it took me forever to open a couple of those files, Jeremy.
Oh, they're large. Yeah,
Yeah.
they are very, very big. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, can you all see? It should be an Excel spreadsheet, cash flows.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so 2021, I did adjust these numbers accordingly. Okay, so this is what, you know, as of the latest reports, at just under $3.9 million, and then expenses at just under 2.2 for a net of roughly 1.7. Now that's on a cash basis, right? So just I know that gets a little bit confusing here, but just remember that's on a cash basis, right?
Right.
So then we paid a roughly 1.55 to the general fund. We had our 300K. It was like 299, 800 or something like that, right? So just round up 300K that we did in capital, which leaves us with essentially, I hate saying this because it's not exactly true, but essentially losing a net position, I'll say, of roughly $150,000, right? This was our year beginning cash balance at 1.2. This is our year end. Is everybody on that same page?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So moving on to 2022, you know, this is our budgeting numbers. We're scheduled to, you know, we budgeted an approved budget of roughly a $1.1 million net prior to any payments and capital expenditures, right? So then we have our 450 that we're fixing to pay TID. We have our 300 for capital acquisitions, and we have our 45 for the solar project. This is what we're budgeted to net or put towards our capital reserve fund, okay, which will leave us right around that one. We'll just call it 1.45, you know, reserve fund. Any questions so far?
Nope.
All right, this is where it gets tricky. Okay, so 2023, this is the big year. Okay, now Carl, let's just get this one out of the way. You know, and this is so Bill and I did have a conversation. I know if you recall our previous meeting, you know, you all wanted me to run numbers and get approved by Bill. So Bill and I did look at this document together. I created this kind of plan, and it's with his approval, right? But going on the assumption that we're on gross receipts of that 3.19%, okay? This is where pilot would be potentially introduced. Now, this isn't guaranteed, but this is what we're banking on right now, right? So 2023, the first year of pilot, remember, it's gross receipts. Okay, so if we have if this goes down, then this goes down. Now, obviously, not 1-to-1 ratio, but you get the idea.
Mhm.
We're still planning on paying $400,000 to TID, right? We still have our capital acquisition, our annual 300K that we, are doing. We're going to continue that, and this would be potentially the addition redesign that we would use from our reserve fund for this redesign project, not Pleasantview Road project, which would leave us essentially a net loss proposition of we'll call it $250,000, which leaves us roughly 1.2 in reserve. Okay, now where I got these numbers, all right, this is where I got these numbers. I gave four or five different options here, like a net loss of 10% gross receipts. This is based on, the Pleasantview Road construction, the redesign, things like that. I've got a 15% loss, a 20% loss, 30%, 40%.
Mhm.
Okay. And then I adjusted expenses accordingly. All right. Our average expense is roughly 66% on every dollar that we earn. Okay. So it's not a 1-to-1, right? So if revenues go down, expenses should also go down. Okay. So again, here's my expense versus revenue here over the past since 2014. The average is again 66%. Now there's an anomaly in this one. 2018 had a big anomaly because that's that acquisition of land, right? So this isn't actually 100% accurate, but I'm keeping it in there because I think it's conservative, right? I think it shows that there's more expenses, and I'd rather err on that side as opposed to assuming that we're going to have the most efficient year. Whereas, as you can see in 2021, we were at 55%, right? Which was incredible compared to the average.
Huge difference, yeah.
Right. So I'm going to keep this anomaly in here just for safety.
Mhm.
Okay. And then in 2020 was 61%. So you can see, right? I mean, you can see that we're roughly that 66. Okay. So that's where I came up with what the expenses would be based on the each respective scenario. And then I have pilot in here, which would be adapted based on what the gross revenue receipts are. Okay. And then I have, frankly, the most that we would spend with Kevin Norby for the redesign, which is this 910. Okay, which I can take out, but I don't have that in this sheet, right? I had this one, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I kept the most for my own benefit, right?
Mhm.
And this is where our cash end year would be. So that's including pilot, that's including the most with Kevin Norby. And we can play with these numbers all we want. I just have to, you tell me what you want to see and I'll enter it in there. Bill and I were thinking this number, but I'm happy to put a scenario. I'm happy to put these numbers.
Well, I think it should be the 20%, and I'll tell you why, because I think your fixed expenses don't go away. Your variable expenses are, of course, going to be in part determined by the amount of play, but you're still going to be maintaining the course. You're still going to be mowing it. You're still going to have people working. So I'd feel more comfortable with a more conservative number.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay, so here it is, right? Now, this is not the most, right? You saw that Kevin Norby, the most would be in the 900s, right? So this is adjusted a little bit, which we'll get into. This is year end.
Okay.
Now, I want to be clear, this is assuming we only put 450 into TID this year.
Right.
I still have this as an eyeball that I'd love to get rid of internally, my internal goal, right?
Right.
But I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. Then the other thing we have to remember is in 2024, we need to expand the maintenance facility. We need to do something with the maintenance facility.
Right.
Okay, and that's in here. So that still leaves us, right? Assuming that all goes well in 2024, that still leaves us north of $1 million.
Okay.
So again, here are the scenarios, right? So I just put in 20% per Tom's request. Pilots adjusted.
Mm-hmm.
That stays the same. That stays the same. This is variable. There's our net, our beginning, our end. Reserve fund.
Right.
Yeah, I like that it stays north of 1 million. That's good. I would hate to see it dip below that with any of the scenarios that we choose.
You guys have any questions on? So, okay, do you have any questions on that stuff that I went through? And again, Bill and I created this. I used, the sheet that Bill created, this first sheet. Then I just created scenarios and I just did some research on previous expenses, and Bill he felt good with this.
Well, speaking for myself, I can certainly live with it. But I think you all ought to have an opinion.
Since I've been speaking so much today, I could certainly live with it as well. So it looks like it's a conservative, at 20% is, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I like the way that it kind of comes out in my opinion, above 1 million at the end of the day in 2023. I think that's good. So I'm comfortable with it.
Jeremy, can you walk us through a few years after that?
Yeah, give me 1 second. Let me just jot some notes down really quick.
Yeah. The reason I want to look at a few years after that is because the other, I think, significant things that we need to be worrying about, or at least thinking about, are things like the clubhouse. Is it big enough? We've talked about a pavilion of some sort.
We have.
We're not going to get to any of those things soon, but if we get to any of them, we're going to need money to do it. And the course is making, the course is sufficiently profitable, it seems to me, that we can start looking at covering costs for these sorts of things on our own. So I just want to make sure those following years.
Yep. All right.
really
So 2024, we're going back. We're not quite going back to what we're projecting for this year. I think there's going to be a little bit of a, I don't think that it's fair to just jump back. Oh, hey, we're going to be back to where we were, right? So
there's going to be a construction hangover.
Right, exactly. There you go. Yeah. So I'm kind of taking a little bit more conservative approach, right? So that these are kind of the numbers that we're basing off of. Now, could that change? Maybe. Could this number be more to that 2? Maybe. But again, we're going off of our trends. There's pilot. There's potential pilot, I should say, potential pilot. There's the payment to TID. There's our 300K for capital expenditures on an annual budget, and this would be the remaining to pay off the maintenance building. And this is where our net, so reserve beginning, reserve end. And then in 2025, we have, again, gross receipts just going up on a very conservative basis. Expenses, the same position. There's pilot, there's our TID, capital, which we don't have anything where we would, as of today, require use of reserves. Beginning, end. 2026 pilot, this would be, as of right now, the last payment for TID. 300 capital, as of right now, nothing for reserve. Beginning, end. Now, this is when we're not paying TID. 2027 pilot, no TID, no debt obligation, right?
Right.
Our capital, beginning, end. Now, this is when I get really funny in here, right?
That's a lot of money.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Now, I've said this before, you know, in this area, you know, I want to make sure that we need to take an opportunity to make sure the staffing is correct, right? From you know, making sure that everybody, we have enough staff, and making sure that there's some form of parity amongst the staff. And so, you know, I want to get through this 2023 before we start touching that. So, but still, that's, I don't know. I mean, that is, like Dennis, it's a lot of money.
And
Now-
just so you know, that's the danger, because if the council sees that and understands it, they're gonna want to take that, which is why you want to be paying pilot.
I've been saying that for years.
Right, which
Success
is why,
gonna hurt us.
which is why we need to do the maintenance building. We need to do some of these redesigns in conjunction with Pleasantview Road. This is the time to do it. We need to look at a pavilion. We need to make sure we have staffing and not just, you know, I can't keep doing what I've been doing, right? I mean, it's a lot of work and it's long hours, and we need to just take care of ourselves internally.
I don't think you'll get an argument from us, Jeremy.
No, you won't.
Yeah, and I'm not, it's not just me, it's you know, it's Becky Halverson, it's the maintenance guys, it's our assistants, it's, you know, it's the food and beverage team. I just want to make sure that we look at it and we have things planned, as opposed to trying to continue building up our reserve fund where it gets north of this number, right? And I'm not, and I want to be clear, I'm not looking to spend money just to spend money either, right? That's, you know, I think you all know that's not who I am. But that number makes me nervous.
I think we established the fact that we spend money to make money all the way back to the terrace. So I'm not worried about arguing to build more. I'm not arguing. I will not argue. Let me see how exactly I want to say this. I will always argue that our investments are to improve our profitability, and that has always so far been the case. But man, I'm telling you, Don't let the city council even see a 2.
I
Let alone a
don't-
3, 4, 5.
I don't disagree, Tom. I'm with you on that. And I think some things that we need to take into consideration would be a pavilion, right? Because some of the complaints we get is when we do have an outing, there's nowhere for the general public to go. There's nowhere for leagues to go, right? So it'd be super nice to segregate the outing from the general public.
Oh, absolutely. It's been a problem forever.
Exactly. Since the inception, since before the city owned this golf course, it's been a problem, right?
Right.
And then the other thing is, we talk about the clubhouse, 2007, right? We're coming up in 15 years of this clubhouse being old. It'd be great to do a redesign in the golf shop. It'd be great to do a redesign in the bar, like kind of a facelift. The other thing that we need to look at is improvement of the restrooms, right? I mean, Tom, Tom, Dennis, and Carl, and maybe Brad, I'm sure you all have been in the men's restroom after league or after an outing. I mean, holy buckets. It is like, it's tight, right?
It is.
I just go home.
Yeah, right.
I can't wait.
But those are things that we will need to do. And so, yeah,
So Jeremy, I'm going to make a recommendation
please.
for you where column Q, what year is that?
2025.
Yep.
You should think about taking that capital number way up and start attacking the things that are on that facilities plan.
Okay.
I'm
Don't need-
also wondering, Jeremy, if it's worth putting in the minutes that we know that we have to provide all these things, so that at a time in which in which they're looking at it, if they're saying, whatever they're saying, that we have points to go back to say, we've been planning on this, here it's in the minutes. Because from history, we know that once it's in the minutes, it's a much better discussion than if it's, well, we've talked about it as a committee, but we haven't put it in the minutes.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Janet.
So do you remember that document we paid for, the capital reserve fund?
Yep.
Reserve document? That's what you need to start hitting.
Yeah, well, so part of I agree, and that can be some of the internal stuff, Mark, right? Like I was talking about with the facelift of the food and beverage bar, facelift of the golf shop, improvements to the existing bathrooms. Those are all things that I think that are in that reserve study. The pavilion, I think that would be something new, maybe. But I agree with you that we need to start checking off some of those. And I want to be clear, we have been, right? We have been checking off some of those mowers and things like that. So, but I'm with you on that. We need to fall back onto that reserve plan that we had done a couple years ago.
So
think you should-
actually, in what is it? You go from 1A to 2.2, 2.3 in column R.
Mhm.
That's where you should really start spending.
I don't disagree. Well, and plus the other thing too is you think about the expenses, right? A dollar doesn't go the same. I mean, as you all know, right? A buck 3 years ago was a buck. Now it seems like it's $2. So this $300,000. We've been doing this since when? It's been probably 5 years, and we haven't increased it.
Right.
Yeah, but I think you have a constraint. As long as that TID money is out there, I think you have that constraint. But
No,
once
I
that's-
agree.
Once
What
that's
I'm
paid
saying,
off,
Mark, is
yeah.
what I'm saying is we have a sound argument to increase it.
Well, you have a sound argument because there's a backlog of stuff that needs to get replaced,
True.
not because of costs increasing, right? If that whole reserve study was resolved, I think you could make an argument that, just that you have inflationary pressures.
So maybe what I'll do is okay, I agree with Janet. I'll put something in there, right? I'm not going to get specific, and I'm not going to certainly throw any numbers out there, but I'll just recognize the golf committee and staff recognize the need to hit that reserve study. Ish. I'll come up with good verbiage.
Yeah, they just need to start working on the projects suggested by the reserve study.
I think that's a good way to put it, Mark.
So those were identified items from the past. I'm curious about what would be good for the course in the future. I suggest that because you're going to give Norby a crap load of money, you tell him you'd also like a 2 or 3 page report on future enhancements to improve the course and its profitability.
Well, I don't know if Norby can give you the profitability piece, but he could probably tell you about his concepts for changing the course around.
Yeah, I
Well,
wasn't asking him for profitability. I was using that as a guideline.
I can already tell you what it is. It's the bunkers.
Okay.
Bunkers,
The bunkers.
bunkers, and maybe practice facility, but yeah, bunkers.
Yeah, and a practice facility. I already know what it is. We don't need Kevin. We don't
No,
need him.
I'm telling you, all I'm saying, Jeremy, is you're going to give him a lot of money. Ask.
Yeah, yeah, but
Get
Tom,
it in
his
writing.
time, his time is his time, right? I mean, I don't think he's going to do that for free. But I do seriously, if we want to take Pleasantview Golf Course to the next level, the bunkers have a massive, the bunkers. We could redo the bunkers and you could change the outcome of a lot of things on this golf course. And frankly, some of the green complexes, right? If we, like kind of what we're doing on Lake 8, I think is a great idea. We get rid of the old, frankly, I don't even want to call it push-up green. You know, it looks like they just mowed it wherever they mowed it. And we're going to create a unique green that has good grass. And those are the things that we want to change the golf course. The bunkers and the greens would be it. And to Carl's point, the practice facility, you know, we could knock the ball out of the park with a better putting green, with a chipping green, you know, a short game area that's actually legit, like a 50-60 yard pitch shots. I mean, those are things that we could really capitalize on and create a vibe for
I
golfers.
want you to keep track of how many trucks of sand you bring in when you change those bunkers.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's incredible.
The list you just made would be a good EG list in this set of minutes.
E.g.
Things that we know need to be done
Oh, I got it. Okay.
because people are
Examples.
going to look back at this. Janet's right. If we start spending money, significant money on needed course improvements, people are going to say why, and we can point back to these minutes and say something we've been discussing quite a while now. And all of these have come up for discussion.
Oh, yeah.
So you can say, for example, from previous discussions.
I don't disagree. I'm with you guys, and I think we're doing our due diligence. I think we've dotted the I twice. We're good. I will get it in the minutes. I think now what we need to do is we need to focus on what's currently in front of us and decide if we want to spend $500,000 or $800,000 with Kevin Norby. That's what this is about, right? So I've got it down. I do not disagree, but let's move on, please. Because that's what I need to have answered.
So the difference here is you must be doing a lot of the work on the lower number.
Well, so you guys still see that sheet, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So here is what we're kind of projecting. And then to make sure everybody is on the same page, we did have a video meeting with Kevin Norby. It was me, the maintenance staff, Tom was involved. Was there anybody else, Tom, on that?
No.
Okay. So here's what we kind of came up with, right? I think some of the priorities would be as follows. And I do have we did send a survey out to pass holders and we had 200 responses. Okay. Now I take these surveys with a grain of salt, frankly, because, you know, golfers don't know what they want until they see it, right? there were some comments like, hey, you know, like we don't want to get rid of Prairie 8 because we want a long par 3. And I'm thinking, are we playing the same golf course? Because
Yeah, well,
I
there are
feel like
plenty of
every
long par threes.
yeah. So some of these, you know, I always take surveys with a grain of salt, but here's where we're at, right? So out of 200, we had 196 responses. Okay. Lake 9 was by far the #1 request at making it a par 5. Okay. Now the question is, do we make it a par 5 or do we add further tee boxes to make it a reachable par 4? That's the question we still need to ask ourselves, right? So hold that thought just there. Woods 9 came in at #2 to get done. Okay. Then it kind of was a crapshoot. Lake 8 came in #3, but I kind of think Lake 8's being affected by Lake 9 because without Lake 8 being moved, Lake 9 doesn't happen. But I still think Lake 8 should change. Prairie 8 came at #4. And then frankly, it was kind of like you know, like Prairie 3 technically came in at #5. Lake 1 change came in at #6, and then Lake 6 came in at #7. And then new tees came in last. Okay, so now that said, what we felt after our meeting was 9 Woods Green and tee, that needs to happen. 9 Woods needs to happen just from a functional standpoint. Okay, so the reshaping of 9 Green and adding a new tee box to make it more reachable, I think is a home run. We also believe that Prairie 8 is, I don't know why we wouldn't do this. We have an opportunity to make a downhill par 3, a memorable par 3, and we can still keep the original green in play during construction. That's a big one to me, right? Lake 8 and 9, okay, you can see that's that price tag there. Now, then I kept it on the high end. The thing is we do not have to make Lake 9 a par 5, but we do need to change Lake 8 if we want to have the option to make Lake 9 a par 5. I'm indifferent on Lake 9. I agree Lake 8 needs to change. And then Lake 6, I think needs to change. I think it's the worst hole in the golf course. I'm talking all 36 holes. I do not like Lake 6 at all. I think it's it's not a fun golf hole. So what we've left off is we've left off Prairie #3. And we left off Lake #1 because I don't want to do too much to the lake greens, because what we'd be looking at right now is we'd need a temporary green here, temporary green here. Lake 6 would be impacted greatly, right?
Mhm.
And then we have a temporary green on Lake 2. So you can see Lake is going to be a challenge, right? And so I didn't want to affect Lake #1. And then we took out Prairie #3 just from a cost standpoint. So what I need from you guys, yeah, so let me just, and some new tees are sprinkled in there. We're going to do a lot of these internally. Like we feel like we can add a tee box on Woods #3. We can do that ourselves. Some of the other ones that we want to eventually add, we feel very confident we can do those internally. So we're not dismissing the additional of tee boxes, both forward and frankly back. But we feel we can do it at a better cost. Lake 9's a must, Lake 1, Lake 6, Lake 8. Okay, yeah, yeah. So that's where we're at. So the only one we're really missing out of this one that you should be concerned about is prairie number 3. So my question, so let me go through this. So Kevin Norby, right, we have a consulting fee right here, 51K. We already have 15K budgeted for 2022, which is why there's a negative in there. This is the cost for 9 Woods Green and a new tee box, a forward tee, I should say. That one we do want professionally done, by the way, just because of the slope. This would be the construction of a brand new green and a new tee boxes and a bunker on Prairie 8. This would be the construction of moving Lake 8 green and adding features, a bunker, potentially expanding that pond and adding tee boxes on Lake 9. This is Lake 6. Altering the fairway a little bit, removing some of those trees and adding a kind of a fun fairway bunker. And then we do want to look at seal coating the parking lot just to keep some of the practical, capital improvements going. Okay. And then we have maintenance consulting that we want to make sure we have budgeted for the maintenance building. Capital, so this is the total right here, right? 734. We budget 300 each year. We would need to take roughly 434 in reserve. Which is where I got that number right there.
Mhm.
So what I'm looking for is I'm looking for approval for the services for Kevin Norby.
Silence. Am I still in this meeting?
Yep.
We hear
Jeremy,
you,
you're looking
Tom.
for a motion?
Yeah, I need the golf committee's approval or for recommendation to the finance committee.
For discussion, I don't see how we can not do this.
Is that a motion?
Well, does anybody want to discuss it for a second? Because I'm happy to push forward a motion.
Well, this is all the capital, golf course improvement stuff we've been talking about for quite a while.
Yes, it is. I agree. And I'm comfortable with the way it looks. So
Well, I'm comfortable because Jeremy, you guys need to be the one that picks out what we do and what we don't do. Because you could list improvements from now till tomorrow. So I'm moving. My motion is to,
Hearing what the public, well, do we want to make a motion here so we can
Yeah,
get this going?
I made a motion.
Janet, okay.
Yeah.
and I will second that motion.
Okay. So, here's my take on the golf course. I think the Woods Golf Course is a fantastic golf course. I really do. I think there's not a lot of changes I would make. Would I reshape some bunkers? Would I love to have greens that were more contoured? Of course, but those are massive projects, right? I think number 9 Woods, it is a rather unfair green for such a already difficult golf hole. And I think it needs to get changed because we really only have 3 spots where we can put a pin, right? Typically 6 would be on average where we would have a pin, not just, so should say 3 locations on the green, right? So we really have front right, middle back, and then back left. Ideally we would have 6 so that we can rotate accordingly, right? Currently right now, we're just not able to do that just because of the slope of the green. It's too severe. In tournament play, whenever we have events such as like some of the high school regionals or sectionals, it's no question the one thing that makes me nervous when we're hosting an actual official function. So I do think that needs to be redone. I do think that we have too many holes that are uphill. I don't understand the comments of keep the long par three. We need long par threes. Frankly, because we already have long par threes. I mean, you all play here. The Woods course, the hole 2 can play 202 yards. Hole 7 can play 195 uphill. It plays longer than hole 2. And then the lake course, hole 4's 200 yards uphill.
Uphill.
Hole 7's 185 from the tips. Kind of uphill. It just doesn't make sense to me, right? I mean, Prairie 2 and 5 are the only ones that are somewhat average, I would say. But hole 5, you can't even see the green. So I really, from a playability standpoint, I really believe Prairie 8 needs to be a downhill par 3. I want it to be a fun, have a wedge in your hand and still be nervous shot. I mean,
Yeah.
Brad, you've played all over the place. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm with you because I think as you're going through the par threes, I'm sitting here thinking like, which one do I remember? Right?
Yeah.
They all run together. So, yeah, I mean, having a downhill par 3 changes it a little bit. I think the only reason I think people would be saying to keep the par 3s is just to lengthen the course. I mean, keep the long par 3s, but I'm with you. I think it's going to make it more enjoyable.
I do too. And the backdrop, there's a little Oak Savannah to the left. I mean, they can use a slope. We can make it a prairie-looking hole. Like, we got a prairie-looking hole on the Prairie Golf Course, right? 155 yards downhill for the tips, right? So women would be around that 75 mark. The middle tees would be, I don't know, 140. I don't know, whatever. I just think this could be a win that would be more fun for people.
So the
And the
motion
other
is
thing-
on-
Yeah, Janet just moved to approve. We're just discussing currently, right?
Yeah, I know, I understand that, but my question is, what's the number we're approving?
Well, we haven't decided that yet.
Okay, so let's get to the number, because I
Well,
think we're all in
so
favor.
Tom, hold on one sec. So the other issue with Prairie 8 is it's a safety issue.
Yeah.
Like I genuinely believe that it's a safety issue, and shame on me for not bringing that up to begin with. We've had 2 incidences where people have had to come off the golf course because of errant golf balls in the last 2 years. So I do believe it's a safety issue. And then moving on to 8 and 9, you guys already know the take on that. And you already know my take on Lake 6.
Mhm.
So I think now, Tom, it goes to your point of what are we comfortable spending?
Well, let's put it this way. Is there a number you can't afford? I think the answer to that is no. Is there a number that you're more comfortable spending? And I think that puts us back at the 407 or 470 or whatever it was. So if you had Norby do all of this stuff, if you paid him to do it all, it'd all be done at once, more or less, right? One season.
Correct.
But if you do part of it, in fact, a substantial part of it, it's going to take a few seasons to get it done. True?
That's correct. Yes.
So the real question here is not what changes we want to see, because I think we agree on all the changes. I think the real question here is how much disruption will we generate multiple seasons if we do some of this work? The caveat being maybe the disruption on building new tees or something like that, which we can do, would not really be all that disruptive anyway.
Mhm.
So I think that's what we need to talk through and then decide what the number is going to be.
I think some of I think some of the Ts just don't make sense, to be honest, to have him do it. We feel very good about the Ts.
Is
I think-
there anything that you have taken out of Norby's work plan that you feel will be substantially disruptive to play if we wait on it?
Prairie 3.
Right. That would be the big one that's not on the list. So, yeah.
Well, I only get to that side of the fairway if I hook an iron shot anyway, and so at that point, I just as soon it weren't there, it wouldn't matter, you know, but Jeremy, if you don't do 3, would you continue to maintain it or just let the grass grow up?
No, we'd continue to maintain it.
It's an expensive maintenance issue.
Yeah. The trouble is that that grass is not designed to grow tall.
Yeah,
So we'd have to strip it and reseed it.
Hmm.
And the trouble is also that bunker is not designed to, that bunker is designed to have a split fairway.
right.
Yeah.
Well, let's hear it, committee. What should we suggest?
If I've got it right, everyone, we've got $734,000 for the projects that are listed above, which we've prioritized. Jeremy, you've done a good job of describing which ones would have a real impact, especially on Lake. If we do more on Lake, it would be more temporary greens, things like that. That would be a problem. So I'm very comfortable with that list. I thought we were kind of motioning and approving the 734. Is that accurate?
And that's the Norby number.
Correct.
That's not the full Norby number. Remember, so Kevin Norby's number was 870.
Right.
Okay, so we've reduced 140 grand.
The most of that was Prairie 3, right, Jeremy?
But that,
Prairie 3 is $125,000.
Right.
but Norby's number didn't include the seal coating and the maintenance consulting either.
That's correct.
Yeah, like 40 grand out.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Well, I'm okay with 7. I'm also okay with 4. Let's have a conversation here.
Well, when I
Jeremy,
was
what are
making
you
the
most
motion,
comfortable with?
yeah, I'm comfortable with 7. That's what I thought when I was making the motion. I was making it for 7, although I didn't say it. So
Mark?
And I'm comfortable with that too, which is why I seconded. So I think it looks good. It's the
Mark?
right group of projects.
Mark? You don't need to know about the golf. We need to know about how you feel about the money.
And go back to the 23 numbers.
Give me 1 sec, please. Got it.
Right.
You already got it in there.
Yep. Yep. There it is.
And it leaves you with 1.2.
Ish.
Yeah. You know what I would do? I'd spend the other 200 grand.
So so now here's the thing. We only put roughly 20 grand in capital improvements, right? Which is the seal coat.
Mhm.
So we could potentially spend 100 grand on improvements internally, right? So here, not that you need to see this. Well, yeah, just to keep it simple. Capital request. So like in 2023, we could bring forward, or excuse me, 2024, we could bring forward, but we have a lot for the maintenance building.
Yeah.
Okay, but I mean, we could bring forward a mower, or I don't know. I'd have to think about that. I don't want to say anything right now.
So here's what I would do. You don't need to know this today, right?
Correct.
I would take the other 183 and figure out what you want to spend that on. In addition to that.
Internally.
Huh?
Internally.
Well, not necessarily. You were going to do 3. This is 2023, right? So get all the massive disruption out of the way.
I was just gonna say that.
If you want to add back to Norby, that was it Lake 3,
Prairie 3.
Prairie 3. You said it was $1.25. Well, you've got $1.80.
Yeah.
From a timing perspective, right? If you're going to screw up the golf course, screw it up in 2023.
That's the plan. Yeah.
All right.
Because Pleasantview Road's already gonna be screwed up.
Pardon me?
I think here's what I
Pleasantview
need.
Road, it's already gonna be impaired.
Correct. And
All I'm saying is that if you're going to have disruption, you rip the scab off and get it done. That way you're still left with $1 million there potentially. In case your top line numbers don't hit what you want. You've gone through and you've improved the course significantly with these changes. You've improved the other facilities, right? I just think you should get it all done.
I agree. I think that you can tell golfers in 23, thanks for figuring out how to get to the course. We really hope you enjoy it.
All right.
We're
So
making some really big improvements.
So instead of that hard-coded number there, Jeremy, just put a formula in there so it links back to that.
well, yeah, I will. That's more my,
Okay.
yeah. This
So-
is being shared.
Yeah. So get back down to $1 million. So you got 60 grand to spend.
Well, then,
To get you more, yeah.
616,800.
There you go.
Yeah.
Done.
Can you
Okay,
sleep
that's-
tonight, Jeremy?
What? What was that?
I said, will you be able to sleep tonight?
No, I'm fine. I'm fine. I need to digest this, to be honest.
Well,
I
you want our
look,
motion
I
to-
feel good. Like, I feel okay.
Here's the thing, right? You've got till August, September to
budget.
think about this.
Yeah.
Right? You only have to spend what, 50 grand on Kevin to start getting plans done.
Yeah.
You'll know by July what this year looked like.
Okay. So here's what I need. I guess, Mark, and maybe we'll certainly have to have this, his agreement revised, right? If we do add Prairie 3, I'll have a conversation with Kevin Norby. So how he's got to generate big docs, right? And this is part of the package. He's going after a golf course contractor that can help us out for the Pleasantview Road project and for the redesign project, right?
Right.
So he's working on bid docs currently. Do we feel like the common council, right? Do we have to worry at all that the council is going to say, no, you can't spend 616 grand from your reserve?
I don't think so.
Okay. Okay.
I think that's a misplaced concern. I mean, you paid off the city early. You're making big numbers against TID because you're profitable. These things are all designed to keep you profitable. Who's going to tell you no? Well, we know it's going to say no, but I think you'll be okay.
Okay, let me have a conversation with Kevin Norby. So what do we do with this? Do we,
You don't do anything. Well, you just have Kevin redo his bids. I mean,
So-
redo his plans.
so I
Right.
think, I think Janet's motion though, right? So what do we do with the motion?
Just say that she's moving to approve preliminary 23 budget as outlined.
Yeah, that works.
That should work, yeah.
Okay,
I'll second that motion.
And then you get
Well,
the
no,
star for being the first one in
Carl
the
already,
city.
Oh, Carl
Carl
got
already
it.
seconded that.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, Mark, you just said I missed it.
I said, now you get the star for being the first one to have their capital plan done.
Are you speaking from experience, Mark, and do those stars matter?
They do not. Like, it's like the papers in the first grade.
Uh-huh. Yep. All right. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries.
Okay.
Jeremy, did you get the thing I sent you about Kevin?
I did.
All right. I think we need to set a meeting.
Yeah, we do need to set a meeting. So do you guys want to designate any agenda items? I mean, I don't know why we have this on here, but I'm assuming financials.
Keep everything on here except number one.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
So when in March?
4 weeks is the same date.
The
First,
21st? Yep, I can do that.
same here.
Anybody have a problem with that?
Nope.
Nope.
Okay. Somebody move adjournment, please.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second,
I'll second.
thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're done. Thank you all very much.
Thanks.
Good
thank
night.
you all.
Thanks, Jeremy. A lot of work.
Indeed.
Jeremy, make sure that Kevin knows our thoughts too, on top of what we wrote.
I will 100%.
Okay, thanks. I sent him an email.
100%. I will make sure of that. Yeah. Will do, Janet. No problem.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Okay, guys, thank you very much. I appreciate your time as always. Have a great night, and I'll have a conversation with Kevin Norby in the coming days. So,
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sounds
All
good,
right.
Jeremy.
Good
Great.
night, everybody.
Thank-